Hi, Shabnam. Nice to see you this morning. And, of course, for many years, you were head of marketing and communications at Edelweiss Group. And so are very familiar with the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is really to think about how does one do one's own financial management. And this month, March, which always then everyone comes around to talk about Women's Day and women's issues. Uh, there's one piece of it that I think women still do not do enough of, which is really think of their own financial planning. And we've both seen that very powerful video that PTM made a few years ago on just what that does, right? When you don't think about it early on, how that diminishes confidence, that diminishes wealth over a period of time. And you've been generous enough to do this with many young people, including the ones in our office, and they have benefited so much from your wisdom that we wanted to take this opportunity to share that wisdom with many, many more people. So thank you again for doing this. And let me jump right into it and just ask you, why is it that women do not do enough financial planning for themselves? What are these stereotypes that emerge?
Okay, thank you, Swati. First, of course, you've got me right at the right point. Love to talk, and it's so much easier to impart wisdom, if you may call it wisdom, which comes after many many years of living on your own, going through and learning things on your own, and of course, being in the financial services industry, so we see it straight up front. But I thought, yes, I think you rightly pinged it on the nail. Uh, there do exist stereotypes. Stereotypes, a lot of them that we women ourselves will advocate. And that's surprising, right? But so let's just dial back a very tiny little bit. Men have been at it for thousands of years, right? They've owned, they've amassed, they've built, they've killed, they've conquered, all of that. So they've always been right up there in the front, assuming that they know it all and they own it all. So it'll take us a few years to catch up, a few hundred years maybe. We've just about only started. So the stereotypes exist. What are the stereotypes? Oh, you may not even know how to count. Maybe it's easier to shop. It's, just give us some cash and there you should go and buy some shoes. We say it ourselves, and that's the funny part of it. But all of us have seen our mums ferret away little bits of money from the kharchi that comes every week. Suddenly, you realize they've got loads of lakhs in their cupboard. You remember all the stories during the demonetization. The ones who really suffered were the housewives who kept the money away for not only for their own spends, because yeah, maybe they didn't trust the way their husbands looked after it, or they didn't have any means. We save. We Men tend to just really accumulate, right? They want more, and they want to see that pie. It's sort of an aspect of what their worth is.
But
For
women are thinking
women,
of security.
yes, they think of security. They want that money to grow and grow by just adding to it, not really doing anything else, but it's savings. So we know how to do that by the salt of our teeth. It's now only the point where we want to show or talk about how you can invest it, compound it, right? So stereotypes will exist few more years, quickly, rapidly decide. I mean, they'll disappear. ICICI was once a bank full of women,
Absolutely.
heading all kinds of roles.
Yeah.
So
But you make an interesting point, right? It's the perception of what I can and cannot do. So it's the same reason why why young girls don't choose into math and sciences. And some of those things are socialized, and others then just makes you tentative because you haven't had the practice. Well, what you're saying is men have not just done it for thousands of years, but even if I see today, young boys just will take the leap. Young men, as they start their careers, will feel like they need to make these decisions, and women will either tend to hand it to another family member, a male family member, or ferret the money but not necessarily make decisions about the money. um,
Yeah, there's an interesting thing. I don't know whether you've noticed, but during my hostel days and, as we were working together, etc., sometimes I see that reflected even in our kids. Um, the money you had, which wasn't yours, given to you by your parents, uh, the ones who would be a lot more circumspect, more careful about how they spent that money were the girls or the women. The men would have no qualms opening their wallets, buying things, spending it. I don't know what it has to do with it, but that attitude and I think that behavior makes us great investors. Well, we just
Yeah.
have to have that confidence. We've been doing it for years. Uh, Men tend to be great spenders as well. So this whole thing about women spend, yeah, men spend.
Certain ambition and an aspiration that just comes more naturally to them. And I think what you're saying is there is a habit of saving, and how does one translate that into taking the leap of planning for a future and then making decisions around it. And that can be very, very daunting, right? When you're a young person or even in your mid-30s, when you discover you've amassed some money, but what do I begin to do? And I know that suddenly some people in my office came to you with this problem,
Yeah.
and you were so good about giving them a pathway on how they could begin this. And I would love for you to share that with this audience today.
Sure. I think I had put down a whole bunch of steps with them, but I think the two things that if we were to roll our conversations or our attitudes or beliefs where money are concerned, I put them into these two questions. One is to figure what kind of a person are you when income comes in? Um, do you spend and then whatever's left, save or invest?
Yeah.
Or do you pull out first, save and invest, and then whatever's left from whatever you pulled out, which you've already pre-decided, is what you then spend? So spend and then invest, or invest first and then spend. So figure that out, for our own selves. I think that's the number one question. The second question is something I think we need to use across any action, any behavior, anything we say, anything we buy, anything that we want to do. It's essentially, is it worth it? And can I afford it? Now, you can ask it when you want to buy a car, when you want to buy a house, or when you want to bungee jump. And when you're bungee jumping, I know the question is clearly you cannot afford it, but we do all take the risks. But is it worth it? And can I afford it? If it's worth it, that beautiful engagement ring is worth it, and yes, I can afford it. That house is possibly worth it because it means I've got a real estate asset. It will hopefully grow. Can I afford it in this time of such spiraling high real estate prices, mortgages at an all-time high because of high interest rates? I may not be able to afford it now. I could truly afford a rental, a house, but maybe not. So it's just these two questions. What kind of a person am I? And is it worth it? Can I afford it? Both things that are sometimes clarified in these two questions.
Yeah.
But really, I think, it's a simple thing. It's like someone was saying, income is great. It's like, you're swiping right. Wow. The excitement that comes from it. The saving or the investing is like, when you prep for a meal, right? Yes, you need to figure all the elements, cut, chop, and then go make that amazing dish, which is what you're going to finally eat, which is your wealth.
That's an
So,
interesting analogy, right? You're saying that you have to imagine a future and then think about what are the ingredients and what do you do for it. And I had a rather sobering conversation with somebody who's my age, right, in her late 40s, who's by now had a career of almost 25 years, who said, I know, I've earned a certain amount of money, but where does one even begin to think about what are you going to need? And then think about decisions from that. And what would you what would you say? How do you make financial planning accessible to everybody?
Yes. So, like in all things, whether at work, whether at kitchen, whether deciding how we're going to manage school children's education in terms of which tutor, etc. It's all about really taking count, right?
Yeah.
It's always a framework. I mean, the minute we work with our X and Y axis and know what goes on the X, what goes on the Y, you know what to populate. So I would urge everyone, I'm saying is step one, beginning, right? Where do you stand? Take your count, take count today. Where do you stand? What assets do you own? What investments do you already have? You don't? What savings? What bank account? It's a simple sheet, one sheet of paper, literally noting it down. And that's step one. Step two of the same step of taking count is on a normal weekday, normal day, normal month. What amount of your income is going into essentials? Maybe rent, mortgage, commuting, your meals, your utilities, your electricity. Those are all your essentials, right? Your veggies, and maybe if you have a maid coming in, stuff. Just what amount? Typically, you will find about 40 to 50% is your essentials.
Yeah.
Discretionary. What part of your monthly income is in discretionary? Schools, apparel, shoes, that amazing concert you want to go to, tech upgrades, right? I need to buy a new phone, salon, travel, gifts. What part shouldn't go more than 25, 30%? The balance should be your investment. And investments that would all be trying to beat the current inflation number. That's it. Just put, so there's one sheet of what you own and what is the income that you're getting from it, whether it's a mutual fund, if you don't have even any of that, just your monthly income. And maybe 1/3 of the house is in your name, whatever. Those assets, your gold, your just it's one time affair. It'll take you half a day, if at all.
No,
And
but it
then
can be an amazing exercise. It can be so sobering because I just, when you said even essentials versus discretionary, what happens to your Swiggy bills, right? Again, whether it's an essential or discretionary, and just looking and doing that audit of where am I spending my money can be both terrifying, but it can also be really empowering because you immediately have data to make decisions around adjustments, right? So just, I mean, you have done this again. I've watched you do this with young people, and just them mapping it, just changes the game. So I
and to
think
be a little facetious, the Swiggy meal, the Swiggy bill for lunch would be in essentials. Your Insta Swiggy Mart, which charges you 300 bucks for delivery at 12 o'clock midnight for ice cream, is completely discretionary. So where you are at and
yeah,
how do you divide your spends, and therefore your 25, 30 that goes in investment. So that's just take control and count a day. The next step is again something I think we tend to forget when we look at all these financial services ads, right? They're all geared up for long-term goals, retirement, the child's education, child's marriage, right? For sickness, medical bills. We tend to also forget that short-term goals are also must be articulated. So they don't just, jump up unnecessarily. We're all there to also enjoy ourselves, right?
yeah,
You don't want to be um, saving and investing till you're 70 and don't have the bones to walk. Much like the oil of Hule ads of yesteryears, which would tell 18-year-old girls that they had to apply oil of Hule on their faces now so they don't get wrinkles when they turn 50. It doesn't work. You need that gratification of today. So you need to articulate the shop. So take count. Second, just set the set your goals, but definitely set your short-term. You want that iPhone, you want to do that one little trip to, Uzbekistan, you want to buy that Lollapalooza ticket, which costs 12,000, 24,000 bucks. Hey, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just go to it. So that's the next. Third is, sorry,
Discretionary is also these things that cheap,
short-term.
but these short-term goals that you want to do, and also starting to put a little bit aside for that.
Swati, that is such a pertinent point because when we say discretionary, you're counting all the things that you did, maybe a lot of them impulse, but these short-term goals are discretionary. And many a times you suddenly have run out of money for that. And then where are you going to get it from? Not from the essentials, because those you have to pay. It is going to go out from your investments which are already compounding. So what a shame. So you just set it within the discretionary. Yeah, pertinent point. Very, very pertinent. But the one thing that women are far, far better at than men is about being disciplined and consistent. Um, Men spell it, they don't know how to really execute on that. We women are good, we just underestimate our ability to be disciplined. We're born disciplined. For years, people have been disciplining us. It's in our DNA. Uh, so, in terms of discipline, what are those little things that you want to just make sure you do all the time and that you can be consistent with? I mean, it could be simple. Again, every one of us can buy 3 blue chip stocks once a month, just 3, not more. Maybe you want to buy one of X company, one of another company, one of the third. At the end of 12 months, you will have 12 stocks, only 12 of 3 blue chip companies. They're already worth 2 years, 3 years. They're compounding.
So it's that incrementally
It's so
adding up.
simple.
Yeah.
But it's simple. At the end of 3 years, you will look at it and say, my God, I'm already X, Y, Z, Z more. And all I did was just buy, set aside that amount of money and bought those 3. That's being consistent, right?
Yeah.
Um, um, Discipline, again, is like SIPs. They completely discipline you. There's a certain amount of money that you will define that is going to go into your SIP account every month. There's nothing you should do about it. What you should do is year on year, as your income grows and your bonuses come in, increase the amount that should go into SIP. If you started with 500, make it 1,000, make it 5,000, but increase it. Don't just be happy with the 500 you started 3 years ago.
And the thing with the SIP is it meets your first criteria, which is save first and spend later. And it just
Yes.
becomes a way to just build that
Yeah.
into the structure so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah. And it's easy to do. I mean, it's a simple thing. Almost every single financial services company will have well thought through SIPs. You will find lots of data on which ones to buy, which one works for you. But the amount, I mean, our staff at work, at home, especially at home, right? They're all coming in with small, income streams. They can do SIP or as
Yeah.
well, So it's simple enough for everyone to do. While doing that, also make sure you're diversified. Gold, hey, great thing to invest in. Diamonds, nah. Real estate, maybe, depending on where your interest rates are, what your risk appetite is. Mutual funds, having well-known, well documented fund records, managing your money for you that so that you don't need to worry. Great. The one thing in India a woman should remember for the next 10 years, we're going to be rocking it. Economically, this country is not going to see better. If we need to make money, we need to do it now. This is the time. Everyone will tell you, you know what, this particular stock is too high, or this mutual fund NAV, the net asset value is too high, may not be the best time to get in. But
It's only
I,
going to be
It's just going to be a great trip. This is the next decade is India's. We need to be doing the investments now. And look back, you're 21, you're 31 next in 10 years. I mean, you're going to be sitting with the pile. But make sure the pile starts now.
So you're saying, take stock, really set those goals, be consistent about it, whether it's through an SIP, but just do it regularly in small increments, but it builds up. And then the other thing I heard you say is
Diversify.
diversify, but take a stance and go in, right? It's
Yes.
and you can keep readjusting that. I think those
Yes.
are great principles.
Diversify. Diversification is your biggest risk management tool.
So you're
Right?
saying multiple kinds of assets, think about the life of those assets, and then tell me, how often do you change this portfolio? How often do you yourself do it?
So thankfully I'm a woman. And so I don't muck around. Do not trade. Men muddle around trading left, right, center, buy, sell, buy, sell. And they are probably sometimes even lower than what the woman has done by just staying put. That's your Warren Buffett strategy. That's what people keep on saying, quality investing. You bought the right. And therefore, when I was talking about the previous point of picking up those blue chips, right? You don't need to trade up and down. You do not need to take that kind of stress on your head. What you do need to do is find the three that you want to stick with, like a little bit of a marriage. Trust them because they've shown they've got the right governance, they've got the right people heading it. And if you don't want to do or make or take the decisions by yourself, depend on a financial advisor or a mutual fund to do it. But um, there is no need to, constantly do this up and down. You need to be secure in the knowledge that you have got something that is taking your income right in the front, that you bought things which are good. Even if it's real estate, you're buying it to keep it for the long ride, not buy it now to sell it at the next peak. Stay. There's
But
no need, there's no hurry.
I have a second order question to that, right? Like you're saying, make your money work for you, think about all of this. But how do you start doing the homework around this? How do you know what the right decisions are?
Okay, so I mean, I'm just going to step one step back before to making your money work. I think a lot of women are extremely happy to see that their income going straight into their bank account and it's growing month on month, right? The
Yeah.
money, the salaries come. It was a lakh last month, is now gone up by 50,000. He's so happy. And the bank is giving you 3.5%. In itself, that's not making your money work, right? Take it out from their first step. But before you take it out, you want to figure what parts you are going to be able to decide to do. As a for a first timer, SIP and mutual funds. Within mutual funds, you have those that are what is called high risk, which are largely equity oriented. And when you find the money, it will also tell you what the risk parameter is.
Right.
You yourself have to figure out what your risk parameter is. Stepping in, two kinds, right? Those who say, I'm tips and I've got conviction and I've heard it from the horse's mouth and I'm going to put it all in there and it doesn't matter, all eggs in the basket. I'd hate to be one of those. And there are those who say, I'm going to read. If you go to any financial site, whether it's moneycontrol.com, whether you're reading Economic Times, whether you're looking at top 100 companies in India, you're looking at the fact that they're either consistently profitable. You're looking at good set of people who are running those. You are not running the pack like a lot of the IPO investors. That's another form of investment, right? You buy at IPO, the stock when it largely lists higher, and you sell. And that's another way of making very quick returns in a short time. But does it really work? Because we've seen as many that have slumped on the day of listing. So
Absolutely.
I think, you know what? Can we not spend 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day scanning headlines, looking at, companies that are doing, like there are things called the result season. Happens, 4 quarters in a year. At that point, you will have newspapers listing out all the information about these companies. But again, if you don't want to do that, paying a fee to a financial advisor is probably one of the best investments you will make,
Someone who
right?
does the work for you.
Who does the homework for you? Who come back to you for your decisions, which
Right.
then at least helps you narrow the pool to see what you can pick up from that. There may be stuff that might be just sentiment. You may be someone who likes to be upfront in sustainable and renewable industry. At least you have thought a theme through. We think and strategize at work all the time. How difficult is it for us to think and strategize about the kinds of things we may like to be associated?
Mhm.
You know, it's like even charity. We decide what kind of charity you want to be with. You want to be in girl education, you want to be in health, you want to be in hygiene, you want to be in waterworks, you want to be in irrigation. Again, this is our money. We
Yeah.
should, but again, it's about thinking, right? What area do I want to be with? Do I want to be in tech? Maybe I still think AI is going to change the whole world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be so it's these are questions that actually are so interesting even amongst us because we're talking about it at all levels. Now
And I
just
think
put a
what you're
label.
also saying is it's uniquely you, right? It's one thing
Yeah.
certain your goals may be yours between short term, long term, your sense of what industries resonate with you, both from where you see opportunity, but also what is ideologically that, all of that gets layered in, whether you want to be in tobacco, liquor, you don't. And that's fine. And each
Yes.
individual is something you need to have a point of view on so that you can go in and make those decisions.
And step one is to take that money out of the bank which is lying idle. If nothing
Don't
else,
let it
in
sit idle.
yeah, in this current regime of high interest, please go get yourself a recurring deposit, right? Again, which sweeps out from your salary account and goes into your bank. You will earn great returns. As a woman, we get, I think, a 0.5 or something more percentage. Uh, Ride the wave. Lock it in now. 5 years later, you're earning 8% a year. It's a lot of money. But right now, you're earning only 2%, 3%.
Yeah.
So, you know, so along with this about how it we if we it's amazing that the truly the bedrock of everything we do, aspirations we want to have, where we want to head, what we want to buy, short-term goals, long-term goals, money. We don't want to spend time doing homework, doing a little research, reading some analysts, point of view, switching on CNBC to see what this is what it is built around. I mean, for us, this is what makes the world go round to some extent. So I think that little bit of काम तो करना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think you're saying take stock, have a plan, and then commit to doing some homework. And
Yes.
rather than making it intimidating for yourself, what I loved about what you said is slice it. It can be 15 minutes a day. It
Yeah.
can be money control or other experts. It can be actually seeking advice from a financial advisor. But the decision has to be yours, and you have to take charge of it. It's the same way as
And
going to see a doctor, and the doctor can give you a lot of advice, but you have
yes,
that final decision.
yes, and it is really between and you deciding also. I mean, if you want to take in the this, I'm going to muddle it around. There's you as a patient, you've gone to the doctor, and that GP is your financial advisor. You still do your little bit of Googling, right? When it comes to figuring out whether, what that tablet did, etc. And then there are the super specialists, right? Your family physician versus your endocrinologist, your oncologist, your neurosurgeon. I'm not even getting into that space. It's simply like going to the GP to a point where you suddenly now become your own GP, you
You
know.
take ownership. You take ownership of your financial health.
Yes, I mean, that's ultimately it. Your financial health built on your risk appetite. How much are you willing to? When we go into a casino, the best way to enjoy gambling is to walk in saying, I've got 10,000 bucks. I'm willing to lose it. Risk appetite is as simple as that. How much money can I put out of my savings, out of my capital, out of my income that I'm willing to lose? And if you say none, then you get into things which are absolutely safe.
Very low. Yeah.
Because the corollary is high risk is high returns, right? So you got things like REITs, real estate investment invites, where they buy into infrastructure, where they buy large infrastructure estates and give returns, large real estate assets and give returns. Those are high returns, but high risk. Because something can happen, right? COVID can happen again, and a whole bunch of all of this will just fall apart. And then there are low risk, low returns, which is money sitting in your bank. Fixed deposits today is low risk, the highest return that we're going to see in decades to come. So jump, get in.
Absolutely. So anywhere between deposits, direct investments in stock, mutual funds, SIPs, there are multiple options.
Multiple.
If you've given us so many ideas here, and also a process by which to do it. Any particular advice to women, because maybe their financial profile is different? Anything particular that you see them ignoring that they should be conscious of?
So I think maybe, yeah, I don't think we as women ever take time to evaluate our own worth. Your worth is not zero because you're not bringing in income. In fact, your worth, the entire worth is the fact that because of you, someone else is able to bring in income. If it weren't for you, who'd look after the children, who'd run the family, who'd look after the in-laws, who literally run, I mean, managing the plumber, then the LED, then going out buying the veggies, then preparing. I mean, we
It's
all
really high value work.
it's high value, it's your worth. But that's one part for the homework. For the ladies who are working, also evaluate your worth. A great time to evaluate your worth is the week of your birthday. You're 1 year older. Everything that you may have invested or saved is also now 1 year older. Has it grown? Has it decreased? What am I learning from that? In the week of my birthday, I need to know this. I look at my financial statements or sit with my husband and we'll do a jot, because then you have your aspirations again for the next year. There's a certain thing that you peg, right? I want to get that. It's like when we go and ask for increments from our bosses. Why are women the ones who are always left feeling they've been shortchanged? Where men will walk out of a meeting having demanded and got it. Women will be so tentative in what we are asking for. It's because we have not even articulated our worth. Whereas for the man to stand out there and say, I did this, I did this, I did this, is the most natural thing, right? Haven't we sort of torn our hair and saying, I mean, it's no longer I. I mean, didn't we hear about this whole collective around this lovely company and organization I'm working in? But during times of increment, men forget that.
Yeah.
So you can go and sing we, but it is articulate the word. So and we've learned to do a lot of that at work. We're just not very good at doing that with our own family and our own income and our own space at home. So evaluate your work. That is the most important thing. And there's one line that I have to sort of tell you, partly because I love it, is I think something that Warren Buffett had said, because we've now talked about all these steps, and you beautifully summarize it as we go down each of the steps. But like you said, no matter how great the talent or the effort, some things will take time. Some things will take a little time for us to wrap our minds around it. You cannot produce a baby in 1 month, even if you get 9 women pregnant at the same
Yeah.
time, right? So we just have to have that plan, which started with taking, a shot at what we are at, to ending with what was your worth when you started 1 year back. And but it's easy. It's not. Start with that one sheet of paper. मेरे पास आज का क्या है or how much I spent. One sheet, same sheet of paper. 1 year later, look at that and say, where am I? And in
Thank
between, one.
Yeah, no, I think what you just said, it just makes it easy and accessible. Take stock, act regularly, celebrate where you've gotten to, and be patient. You
Yes.
cannot make that baby immediately. Be patient both in how you learn about financial planning and then what you do with it so that you can find yourself a year later, 10 years later, in a wealthier, feeling more secure than you first started. So,
And one last thought.
please.
Everything, it's not going to be hunky dory. There are going to be years when you see your money is wiped out. When you'll have your Black Tuesday and something has happened, and banks have collapsed. All of that rubbish is also going to happen. Okay, that is what comes with taking risks. But without risks, you're also not going to be able to manage. So risk management
Mhm.
is critical when it comes to anything that we do. We learned of risk management when we brought the baby home first time, right? You padded the sides of your sofas and chairs, and parents would jump up but say, okay, even if she fell, or she'll get up, and
You're a
sharp objects are taken away. I mean, it's inbuilt. Same with investment. Risk management is critical. You need to pad it up. And panic runs, but like the world, right? Everyone goes to sell at the right time. You have the coons to hold on and say, no, I'm not going to do anything, because everything is cyclical as well. What went down is going to come up. Just be confident of that.
Be comfortable with risk. It's a good
Yes.
place to,
Yes.
to end this March Women's Day on, not just financially, but otherwise just take the risk, trust
Yeah.
yourself. Thank you, Shabnam. This was very,
Thank
very helpful. As I said, you've done this for people that I know, and it has transformed their lives. And we just hope to share this with many, many more. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. You bring out the best in me. Thank you. Bye.